يا عين لا تدمعين فوق كتاف رفقات ومحبين ورجع الخير يا عين لا تدمعين فوق كتاف رفقات ومحبين رجع الخير يما سهرتين الشهيد لما دودين علينا يا عين لا تدمعين فوق كتاف رفقات ومحبين رجع الخير يما سهرتين الشهيد لما
Ahmad Tahar, 12th of November 2024. My final message to the world. I used to be one of those most opposed to young people migrating, especially illegal migration. I believed that a young person's life was wasted, risking everything just to settle somewhere else and acquire the nationality of that country. All of this because of, yes, lack of jobs, low income, fear of the future, and endless wars. Despite all the consequences and losses caused by migration, losing family, friends, and precious time, not to speak of youth years and vitality, our elders have a saying: the young person's strength and vitality cannot be replaced. However, now, I'm one of the strongest supporters of migration in all its forms and advise everyone, whether friends or strangers, to migrate and seek a homeland other than this one. A homeland that's given us no opportunity to hold on to any longer. Because our homeland and our patience with it have made us lose those closest to us, family and friends whose flesh I have to clip my hands and bury. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the greatest disaster that happened to me. We were sitting drinking tea at the end of the day with my family when a helicopter came and started shooting at us. We dropped to the ground and my father was hit. He started screaming, "Don't move, no one move," while he was bleeding. We were too scared to approach and carry him to hospital because anyone who moves will be killed. I was worried how to help my father while next to him, but I couldn't help. He was bleeding, and with every drop of blood, I died a million deaths. I was scared for him and myself. After a while, the helicopter left, and we carried my father and took him to the hospital. Thanks be to God, he was all right after 40 days there, and now he limps when he walks. But I have to tell you this: we've reached a point where you might die, and everyone watches you die, and no one's able or willing to help you because they're afraid they'll die too. And that's even if it's the closest people to you. For me, homeland is family. Homeland is safety. Homeland is the comfort everyone needs in every material and emotional form. That's why I'm thinking about migration to any place where my family and I can be safe without the threat of death hanging over us. And I don't want anyone to tell me slogans, articles or advice. What I've seen and what happened to me is not insignificant. And I wouldn't wish any human being to live what we are living in Gaza. A Gaza that once was beautiful.
Ashtar Theatre.
The 11th of November, 2024.
Gaza, the deep wound in my heart, the land of people being killed under the eyes of so-called advocates of humanity.
What humanity are they talking about when they watch the slaughter of innocent children, women and elders, while hospitals, schools and culture and arts are being destroyed?
What humanity is the world speaking of? While our dreams have vanished, our future has been destroyed, our energy dissipated, and our souls and lives drained, all without anyone lifting a finger.
I write now 400 days of genocide, ethnic cleansing, and the forced displacement of my people.
I write from Egypt after I managed to seek refuge there, just as our ancestors sought refuge during the 1948 Nakba.
I recall their pain and their suffering, and now I understand the secret behind that sigh and that tear that lingered in my grandfather's eye when he would recall his childhood and youth in the village from which he was displaced.
Now, history repeats itself. Yesterday, they were my ancestors, and today it is my present.
Today, I hope with all my heart that my future does not involve being forcibly displaced from my homeland, or telling my children with a tear and a sigh about the new Nakba, Gaza.
How will I tell them about the immense joy I felt when I bought an apartment and began preparing it? I used to finish my work and hurry home to complete some task myself. How I spent hours and days thinking and designing its decor.
And how I imagined in my mind the paint colours and the lighting design, and how I was getting ready to get married and start a family and live a happy life there.
How? How, when the occupation has wiped out the entire residential area, levelling everything to the ground with bombs of death and destruction.
And these are the same bombs that I have suffered from before and continue to suffer from, that took my brother away.
Now, these bombs are returning to steal the lives of many friends, relatives and neighbours, and to rob me of my joy and positive outlook on life.
Now, for the rest of my life, I will never recover from the impact of this massacre and this genocide, the effects of which will last for generation on generation.
But what matters to me now is that the details of Gaza do not fade from my memory.
Every night, I remember Gaza's streets and its features, and I try to return to them in my mind. The details of the streets, my office. I imagine the taste of morning coffee and a breakfast dish shared with my co-workers. I hope all this just doesn't become part of the past and memory.
And I hope that the international and so-called humanitarian community will fulfill its duties towards our humanity in Gaza, and that it will muzzle the oppressive enemy, the thief of our lives, our homes, our properties, and our joy.
November 2024.
I am Ella from Gaza, 19 years old. I had a simple dream to build a small family in a warm home where we
surrounded by hunger, fear and cold from every direction. We became displaced.
My husband and I lost our jobs, and Mariam's first birthday came during the war, and her second will be in December. And I never imagined that I would be able to protect her from the cold, the tent, the hunger that was imposed upon us.
With the constant fear that the flames of occupation might reach us at any moment, we were displaced more than once, fleeing death. God only knows how many more times we have been displaced.
Yes, I used to dream of living in peace, but now my dream is simply to survive.
Today, if the world continues to be blind, deaf and mute to our suffering, our voices that have reached you today will not exist tomorrow.
And I do not want my family and me to become a number that everyone will forget in a second. We are souls with dreams and hopes and wishes, and we deserve to live. This is my message to you, world.
Amjad Abu Yassin, 10th of November 2024. My last letter. I really wish it is my last one. I'm not Christ to bear on my shoulders the sins of humanity, and I don't have the power to forgive all humanity. How is it logical that for being Palestinian we have to endure this terrible fate since the beginning of creation? That the world blames us for all its guilt and anger? From the beginning of time, Palestinians were destined to suffer, to roam and to die. No one is saved, not the weakest or the strongest, or the most villain or the prophet. 400 days have passed. I've seen in them children wishing to die from what they are experiencing. When every time I hear a child wishing to die, everything inside me dies. I've also seen children clinging to life, and a lot of bodies with a little life. It seems that the world doesn't want to open its eyes to what's happening to us. It's choosing to be blind so that it doesn't feel guilty. Ignorance is better than truth. But there are those who see and listen and read these words and hear them. You are our last hope. Millions of stars light up our skies, but they aren't enough to give light to a bombed family under the rubble waiting for its fate. Now a year has passed since last October. It seems like centuries. Day after day we are losing our minds. When this war ends, I wish that I can find the courage to call myself human again. Regardless to their efforts to strip us from our humanity, I resisted. I don't wish this pain we are enduring on any other people. A few months ago, a school next to us was bombed. Tons were martyred. I still smell the death and blood. I started picking body parts from the ground, me and a few others. After a few minutes, the schoolyard turned into a mountain of human parts. For a few moments, I was in hell. I used to hold children's hands and play with them on stage, not to carry their missing parts. Their hands and their legs were spread out on the ground with wires. The children were spread everywhere like clothes waiting to dry. But I no longer feel anxious. I was feeling calm. All the world's leaders said, "This war has got to stop," and I believe them all. Every time I hold a hand or a leg or I see a dead body, I believe them. For a year I've believed them all, that yes, the war has to stop, and I still believe them. It's a good thing and bad thing to be a Palestinian, because you know the truth about the world. Human rights and all those principles that the world's been talking about, they don't apply to everyone, only the strong ones. They invite whoever they want, and for us, the unlucky ones, we aren't invited to this feast.
of November 2024. I've always spoken quietly, but I scream while I'm silent. I express my feelings calmly. I don't react to either big or small things. Everything to me is easy. I love everyone. I rejoice in the happiness of others, and I feel sad when there's an earthquake, flood, hurricane, or even a tsunami in any country around the world. But in this cursed war, I stopped accepting myself. I regretted everything positive I contributed to life because it betrayed me with all its power and violence. What's the use of the calm life I was living compared to all the noise and psychological destruction I'm going through now, along with my family? Before the war, I tailored my life to my own preferences. I wasn't living under anyone's mercy. Anything that bothered me, I removed it from my life completely. I loved the theatre, music, and I sold makeup and perfumes. I would move like a butterfly between perfume, makeup, musical scales, and the stage, and I had a natural harmony. Then the war came, and time completely stopped. My ambitions in life shrank with the sound of every shell, missile, or bullet. I started moving like a butterfly between gathering firewood and water, displacement, and without any harmony. From now on, I won't speak quietly. I will scream in everyone's face. I will expose all the people of the world. My problem is with the entire universe, with the world, with people, with the good before the bad. What good exists in this world where people are okay with their homes being bombed on top of them and their children? What humanity? What human rights? And what nonsense? It's all lies, lies, and lies. I've lost faith with everything that breathes. Even the dove, symbolising peace, betrays and betrays. And the fish in the sea, when I needed it, I couldn't find it by my side. You've left me with no other choice but to feel betrayed. Everyone deceived us, everyone without exception. Everyone participated in slaughtering us alive. No one left who didn't rejoice in our suffering. The goat fell, and everyone wants to make a profit from it. Relatives before strangers, friends before enemies. For the first time, I feel deceived by my enemy. I knew they were criminals, merciless, hungry for our death and torture, destroying everything without compassion for people's livelihoods, oppressing unjustly, burning, crushing. But I did not know that they could be so harmful. A grudge, so deep, so polished, a grudge that's thousands of years old. Hell itself has fallen on our heads in Gaza. Everything evil in this world became Gaza. I never imagined I would live through a war like this, or that my life would be messed up in such a crazy way. I knew there was hatred, deceit, hypocrisy, and betrayal in the world, but never to this extent. Still, I wouldn't wish anyone in this world to live a quarter of what we lived in this war in Gaza. After a year of war, I'd rather stay silent because no one will listen and no one will feel anything. I've become more inclined to speak nonsense, just like this world that I'm part of. I even prefer it if we speak to the world. We should speak nonsense, because I believe that this is the language that must be used to deal with such a world. We saw what happened when we spoke to the world in all languages. What was the result? A shameful silence. After this war, don't tell me to respect such and such a president or minister. They're all cowards, and I don't find it honourable to talk to cowards. Full stop. End of story.
Tamar Najet, 11th of November 2024. A mess, a dizziness and an endless headache. I don't know where I am or even who I am. I feel like I'm in a whirlpool spinning me around and I'm completely surrendered to it. Sweet things mixed with painful things, moments that make me cry, others that make me lose myself. Oh God, where was I? And who have I become? Why? How? And for whose sake is all this happening?
Life has become an equation. For me, and only me, I wake, I sleep, unable to tell night from day, and the days all seem the same, like a repeated version of one another. The rain comes and the rain goes, and the wind carries me wherever it wants, and I'm hoping that it's to a safer place. But the safer place is far away now, and we are tired, and the roads have worn us down, to the point that we have become a burden to ourselves and to each other.
I have burdened myself, embarrassed myself, disturbed people without meaning to, and I have hurt those that I love. What I've learned is that the tighter the circle gets, the purer it becomes. Having more is just a burden, and sometimes being alone is better.
But I wonder, am I dreaming? Or is it an endless April Fool's joke? It feels like I'm living a hidden camera show. For God's sake, enough! We die in silence, we are oppressed, and no one hears or feels.
And even those who feel cannot do anything. We are exhausted by grief, and it no longer matters to think about the small things.
Do any of you know what living in a tent means? I don't think you do. Let me tell you, a tent means cold. It means slow death and continuous hunger. A tent means you and 10 others sleep in a cramped space, half of you inside, half of you outside, like the remnants of life on the edge of nothingness.
You wake up with the morning sun that scorches you with its heat, or with flies biting your body. At night, the cold stings you and makes you forget the warmth of life.
And in the tent, there are no secrets. Everyone is exposed to everyone else. And families here have no choice but to share it as if we were one family.
Every morning starts with a new struggle, a struggle for survival, to secure a little bread and a little water. We don't know any rest here. We have become like an entire people sharing one bitter dream. Every day it's a new story, a new loss, a renewed longing and pain.
This is a whirlwind taking us between places and circumstances, and every place brings with it a new shock, to the point that we can no longer comprehend it.
Every day we live with a new hope, but it vanishes like a mirage. We've become near naked bodies, empty stomachs, tired minds, and wounded hearts.
As time passes, hope dies.
and we are left alone. Rawand Jurua.
And Rehamjaj, 11th November 2024.
Every morning begins with a strange pain. The pain of distance and helplessness. It feels as though I am a prisoner, even though I am free. As if my soul lives in a place I cannot reach. Each morning, I wake up to news that shakes me. Explosions whose sounds reach me through the screens.
With displacement, the longing and nostalgia for the simplest of rights increases. I've been displaced to nearly all the areas in the south, and each time I try and adapt. Memories, longing and nostalgia let me down.
But the hardest was Saturday, December the 16th, 2023. As usual, I called my family to check on them, to hear their voices and calm my heart a little. But what reached me was far from reassuring. I heard cries, sobbing, and chaos filled with fear.
Every time I'm displaced, I meet new people, new characters, and we share our daily lives like we were one family. Because there's no such thing as privacy.
I tried to understand what was happening until I heard my mother's voice, choked with tears. They bombed us, my dear! And your father! He's not waking up! May God save him! The injury to his head was severe. It left him unable to move, unable to speak, and it stole his memory. My father, whom I had always known as strong, had become imprisoned in a body that no longer responded, his mind absent from the details of his life and the faces of his loved ones.
The occupation refuses to leave us alone. It fights us through food and drink. I long for the simplest foods.
My daily phone calls have become heavy. I call to check on them, but I know no one is truly okay.
I was once called a coach. I carried heavy weights and iron. Now I carry buckets of water and bread trays for the baker. Still I try and adapt.
Remember, what's happening isn't just news. It's the lives of people, the dreams of children, the hopes of fathers and mothers longing for a day of peace.
Has the time not come, world, to stand against this ruthless occupation?
War is not an inevitable fate, and peace is not an impossible dream. We believe that there are hearts that feel our pain.
Where's the humanity? Where is conscience? Where's Arabism?
Let there be a share of your hope and prayers for us and our families. Perhaps the world can become a more just and humane place.
Is there anyone who will answer?
لن نخضع لن نركع لن نخضع لن نركع لن نخضع لن نركع لا للذل لا للهوى لن نبالي يا غزة وتحلي بالعزة وتحدي كل حصان لا تبالي يا غزة وتحلي بالعزة وتحدي كل حصان.
Sami Al-Jajawi, 12th of November 2024. I am Sami Al-Jajawi, a father from Gaza, struggling to survive with my family, seeking safety and stability. I'm a young man from the heart of the beloved Gaza Strip, 30 years old. My life was moving slowly, like anyone dreaming of building a secure future, until the last war came and completely changed the course of my life. On the 9th of October 2023, at the height of the crisis, I was blessed with my little daughter. She was born to the sounds of rockets, bombardment, destruction and ruin, in a time when even the simplest elements of life were missing. It was as if she was born to tell us that hope does not die, not even in the harshest of circumstances. We didn't celebrate her arrival as we once dreamed. Our home, which we had spent years building with love, was completely destroyed and turned into rubble. The only shelter we had left was a tent, one that offered no protection from the winter's cold or the summer's heat. We were forced to live in this makeshift tent under harsh conditions unfit for survival, with a severe shortage of food, medicine and basic needs. Every day we faced a new challenge in this tent, struggling to stay alive, waiting for hope to return to our lives and offer my little daughter a better future. My wife, Shryane, had been working hard to earn her master's degree, but she had to abandon her dream due to the war and the loss of stability. As for me, I became unemployed with no source of income at a time when we desperately need all the help we can get. Today I carry the story of my family, a story filled with pain and with hope. And I hope to find a hand that will reach out to help us, and that we may regain the safety and stability we have lost.
Sujud Hussein, 11th of November 2024. The fate of the Gazan is exhaustion and suffering, living out long days of hardship. Despite it all, we try to craft the semblance of a normal day, hoping for a peaceful moment at the end, only to have it shattered by a brutal war that made no distinction between stone and human. In mid-October 2023, most Gazans left their homes, heading towards areas labelled as safe zones by the occupation army.
My family and I, along with my uncles and aunts, went to Khan Yunis in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, gambling with our lives and airstrikes, the advance of military vehicles, the roar of planes, and even the bombing of shelters.
We had no means of survival, merely seeking safety. In those early days, we kept telling ourselves
So tomorrow we'll return.
when we needed something essential, clothes, food, bedding, we'd say,
The house is full of these things. Tomorrow we'll go back.
but between fear, insecurity and the cold, we spent long nights, nearly 2 months, sleeping on the ground, using blankets as makeshift mattresses, thinking that this was only temporary.
Yes, more than 100 members of my extended family shared the same harsh reality. We'd wake up in the morning, light fires, cook food darkened with soot, and bake in clay ovens. The first time I got the chance to sleep on a foam mattress, it felt like I'd only truly discovered sleep that day. But I forgot what peace and quiet felt like, and had no private moments to grieve all that was lost.
We didn't have the luxury of protesting our circumstances. We lived through what our grandparents had narrated about their Nakba. Tasting the bitterness of existence, we consoled ourselves with the thought that the suffering would pass.
But then, just days later, the occupation ordered all displaced people in the shelter to leave Khan Yunis for Rafah, declaring it a dangerous combat zone. We crossed through what they called safe corridors, enduring indescribable humiliation, the terror of walking between tents, the mocking glances of soldiers, the fear of being separated from your family or losing what little you carried. It was a moment of utter despair.
Yes. We left Khan Yunis with nothing but our tears. I cried until grief consumed my heart. We moved to a tent. Words cannot describe that first night. The weather was rainy, and I spent the night imagining the tent flooding and wondering what we would do.
I didn't sleep a wink. I'd yearned for restful sleep after so many exhausting days. But my thoughts didn't spare me, nor did my sorrow. My mind was torn between two equally bitter options. Should I save myself and leave, or stay with my family in the midst of this war, postpone my wedding until it was over? I thought leaving would bring salvation because everything seemed to signal doom.
After many long months, in March 2024, I left Gaza, my cheeks still wet with tears. I bid farewell to my mother, that giving and kind woman who spent her youth raising us after my father's death, defying life's hardships to see us become better people. Just as her eyes began to shine with pride at our achievements, the war extinguished that light, devouring her body and etching lines of struggle on her face that will never fade. I said goodbye to her, wishing I could melt into her arms and never return to this cruel world.
Yes, I made my way to Egypt, carrying in my memory the Gaza I had loved all my life. As I entered Egypt with the driver playing Kulthum's songs and saw the brightly lit streets of Cairo, images of Gaza flashed in my mind. Gaza, more beautiful and splendid than any city. How did it become so grey?
The voice of Kulthum brought tears to my eyes as memories flooded back. Her songs had always been part of my conversations with friends, replacing music with stories about her songs, listening to my friends' tales and sharing my own.
And I left Gaza without saying goodbye to any of my friends. Now I think about how much I need them, how much I long to see them. Does the world understand the longing for a mother, sisters, friends, for memories?
I cry looking at pictures on my phone, and then I laugh. These pictures are all I have now, photos stored in a phone's memory. I record the details of each picture, why I met my friend there, what we laughed or cried about, and how life dealt us a share of hardships that seemed insurmountable to the world.
I tell myself that I am still young and that I have lived and known life. But there are children who opened their eyes to war, who never knew beautiful Gaza or a life filled with opportunity. At least I experienced it, I mock myself. What a blessing life has granted me to boast of.
The whole world lives with more than what we had. Yet the world found even our little too much for us to have. Our children have a right to a dignified life. They are the essence of this generation, standing firm against all odds. To me, Gaza, with its youth, children and women, remains the queen of the world, beautiful despite everything.
Now I live alone with my questions, my fears, my anxiety and my loneliness, far from my family and friends. I fear the news, the sounds, the inability to reach my family's phone or an urgent report of a bombing near them.
I dread the long hours when my friends are offline, which is in the norm in Gaza given the lack of communication tools. These difficult and distressing circumstances are unknown to the world. I sometimes think I've experienced little of it compared to what my mother tells me they endure. Anger consumes me. My heart trembles, imagining how my mother endures such hardship.
Yes, I tell you, these fears and memories of hard nights in Gaza have shaped me into an angry person, sharp-tongued, intolerant of opposing views. I can't bear to hear the word Gaza unless it's spoken with pride and admiration. I ignore and reject dissenting voices. That's a stark contrast to the person I was before. The one who embraced all opinions and welcomed every perspective. The war changed me. It took away the person I once knew.
What we have lived, thought about and witnessed is hard to explain. No matter how much we speak of it, it is the unique experience of a Gazan thrown by the world to face the monstrous occupation, moulded into a myth to satisfy the inhumanity within others.
One day, the Gazan will cry out to the whole world and care for nothing but reclaiming peace. On that day, the world must prepare itself and not blame the Gazan for the results of his prolonged solitude.
Hamid Kassem, 15th of November 2024. No one cares. No one feels anything. This was the last line of my monologue back in 2010. I used to believe that hearts could soften or that people could care. But the present reality was enough to expose the ugly truths of a cowardly world, full of lies, hypocrisy and pretense. I used to wish I could write something beautiful. Beautiful after words of suffering. The suffering my country has endured from oppression, racism, persecution. Our lives are filled with black days. Migration, catastrophe, setbacks and starvation. You don't have the right to a single moment to feel that in this world there are rights. For those that we don't have rights to live a single moment, to feel that in this world there are rights for the young, for the youth, or for the people who walk on this earth, regardless of who they are. Young for the youth of the people who walk on this earth, regardless. When I decided to leave the country, the decision was hard. Very hard. But I felt the darkness of the siege increasing and the smiles of people fading, their laughter disappearing. I thought to myself,
leave now, before you lose your way.
Separation was burning, exile was scalding, and my mother's heart, oh my, it was painful. She was afraid her youngest would be away so long that they wouldn't live to see him and her dreams of seeing her grandchildren running around her. She doesn't know that my fear for her is greater than her fear for me. When I talk to my family during the war, they respond to me coldly.
It's okay, we're fine.
Even though every time the rockets fall on them, I say to myself, may God protect them. Normally people feel it for their children while they're in exile, but we in our exile fear for our loved ones back home. Since October 7th, I've been living in a nightmare, and every time I say, oh God, let me awake from it, but this nightmare keeps getting worse and worse. When I talk to my family, I feel immense weakness, but I can't do anything for them. They always ask me,
but where should we go?
people are running, some carrying their children, others carrying their mothers on their backs, some with mattresses, and everyone is running. They don't know where they're going, but they feel that the further away they go, the safer they will be. I followed the displacement of my family from Al-Saftawi to the beach, from the beach to the UN schools, from the UN schools to the Sheikh Radwan, and from Sheikh Radwan to Abu Iskandar. With every displacement there were stories, tales of fear and terror. One day I felt like the world had turned dark in my eyes. For 3 days in a row I couldn't reach my family, and I felt that Gaza was being wiped out. Thoughts came and went. Are they alive? Are they awake? Are they asleep? Can they even eat or drink? My night was day and my day was night. I couldn't sleep, not even eat. I lived in my room as if I were a prisoner. At night, my phone rang. My sister was calling me.
We're fine.
When I cried out of joy and started jumping around the house like a madman, I spoke to everyone just to believe her. After the calls ended, even though I was reassured about their safety, I felt uneasy. Not long after that, my phone rang at night. And the one thing I hate most is my phone ringing at night. It was my sister. Hello, what's going on?
Oh, please, look online. What are the symptoms of a stroke?
Why? What has happened?
It's Mom. Mom's eyes have turned and her tongue is heavy, and it's 12 o'clock at night, and there's no ambulances, and there's shelling everywhere, and there's tanks surrounding the house.
At that moment, I felt broken. If it was as someone had tied my hands and my feet on and was suffocating me. I felt helpless, weak. I imagined my mother calling me with her swollen eyes, and I was powerless, unable to do anything. The most I could do was make an appeal. If the blood doesn't stir something in your hearts, will you at least hear my appeal or even see it? My mother is from my country, and my country needs an ambulance. Will you save this country? Or will it meet the same fate as many other countries that die right before our eyes? The country is patient, despite the pain. But the rest is up to you. Try to awaken your conscience before we lose our country. But I am certain, no matter what I say, no matter how much I speak, no one will care. No one will feel anything.
Mahmoud Abu Shaban, 9th of November 2024. Loss is extremely difficult, and no one can truly understand except those who have lived through it.
Losing your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, her husband, their children, and your grandchildren, all in one day. That's something so painful. How could anyone bear such a loss all at once?
You lose the warmth and tenderness of your family. You lose their voices, everything that belongs to them. You lose your sweet memories. And even the home, the grave where they're buried becomes somewhere that you can't visit them.
I miss my loving mother and father, who were always by my side, whether I was upset, happy, or needed anything.
They were always there, sharing every moment, no matter what. I miss my brother. He was more than a brother to me. He always supported me, he stood by me, and he helped me endure everything.
I miss my compassionate sister. She was like a second mother to me. Do you know what it means to lose all of your family?
On October the 18th, 2023, I received the news that my sister's house, where my family was, had been targeted. At that moment, I just didn't know what to do. I felt so powerless. I couldn't do anything except call them. Of course, no one answered.
A few hours later, my aunt managed to get to the area, and we stayed in touch with her. That's when the shock hit. That's when she told us, one by one, the names of our family members who had been martyred.
Unfortunately, we lost everything we held dear. But the occupation wasn't done with us yet.
A few days after burying them, we received news that the cemetery where they had been buried had been bulldozed.
And the occupation didn't stop there. Weeks later, we were informed that a house had been levelled to the ground.
The house where I was born, where I'd lived my childhood, my life, and my sweet memories were in every corner of it. Every corner held a special place in my heart.
Even though I've shared my story with you, I'm sure no one can truly feel the pain and sorrow that I'm going through.
I love you so much, my dearest family in the world.
Mahmoud Balawi, 19th of November 2024.
To all the free people of the world, to all the humans of the world.
Enough with the injustice, enough with the death, enough with the silence.
My message is for anyone who carries even the smallest part of humanity in their heart. I know you hear about Gaza, but I want you to understand that the situation is beyond words.
It's war against us. It's not just about bombing. It's not just about blood.
The war against us is genocide. It's a merciless war that kills every one of us and doesn't differentiate between anyone.
I have survived several bombing attempts. Our house was bombed, we moved to another house. That house was bombed too, and now we live in a tent.
Can you imagine how one can live under the threat of death for 24 hours a day?
We can't take it anymore. We are exhausted. We demand that every person who carries even a small part of humanity in their heart stop this war. Stop the bloodshed that's pouring. Stop killing us!
Yes, we are human beings. We want to live just like the rest of the world, just like you.
We are not just numbers on the news.
We are not just images on the screen. We are human beings.
We are families, and we are children, and we are mothers.
We live in an endless hell.
For us, war is a black shadow that never leaves us.
It destroys everything. It takes from us everything that we hold precious. Every moment of our lives is now in danger.
We don't just live under bombing, we live under siege.
With constant, painful memories of cousins, friends, families, relatives, everyone who's been wounded or martyred.
We are in the final stages.
We are gasping for breath before they finish exterminating us.
I hope my message reaches you and that you come to our aid.
لن نخضع لن نركع لن نخضع لن نركع لن حصار لا تبالي يا غزة وتحلي بالعزة وتحدي كل حصار
Mahmoud al-Turk, 13th of November 2024. My message to the world about the Gaza war in 2024. We're still alive, but everything inside us is dead. Yesterday, I was alive, carrying the hopes and dreams of every 30-year-old, full of infinite achievements. But today, those dreams have been stolen, and that ambition has been killed. All that remains are memories inside me that never sleep, haunting me every moment. We were forced to leave our warm, beautiful homes and displaced to an unknown path, living in poor, nylon-covered tents that offer no protection from the summer heat or the winter cold, with no basic necessities of life. I now live the life of ancient primitive humans, gathering wood and anything that can spark a flame, sitting by its fire and smoke to bake a loaf of bread to stave off hunger.
Now, all we think about and all we dream of is returning to our destroyed homes, to live on top of their grey rubble. We have little left to say to the world, to make sure it hears us. Do not forget us and leave us alone. We are not just numbers in death toll statistics. We are humans, just like you. We love life. We have hopes we wait for and believe in. And we have the right to live in peace and security, to stop the endless cycle of wars.
At a moment of realisation, I asked myself, who am I? How have I been able to endure all these events?
Mahmoud Jean, 11th of November 2024. I am Mahmoud, one of the residents of besieged Gaza. I live with my child in a tent after the war destroyed our home and our dreams. I write these words from the heart of suffering and pain, while the sound of bombardment and destruction surrounds us. I see in my child's eyes questions I have no answers for, fear that knows no sense of security, and a hope struggling to survive. Gaza's not just a place, it's our homeland that we love, and we dream of seeing it live in peace and safety. I address this message to all who can hear my voice, to those with compassionate hearts and living consciences, to move and help save us and put an end to this suffering. We are human, and we have the right to live in dignity, to be safe, to give our children the childhood that they deserve. I ask you to carry my voice and the voice of everyone in Gaza, to support efforts for peace and to bring hope back to a land that's tired of sorrow. We are here in the heart of pain, believing that humanity and justice are stronger than any war. Please, save Gaza, save our childhoods, and save our futures.
Heba Daoud, 19th of November 2024.
I feel like a body without a soul. Before the war, my life was perfect. Perfect beyond words. I had a small family filled with love, just as I'd always dreamed.
I had a home that I built with love with my husband, and I had reached a point in my career that I had wished for.
But I still haven't woken up from a nightmare that has lasted over a year. I lost everything. It started with the bombing of our house, the martyrdom of my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, and my husband was critically injured, losing his memory for a month, and his condition was dire. I'd hardly recovered from this nightmare, only to lose my sister, my soulmate, her husband, and all of her children.
I tried to resist all this pain. The people closest to me and my home are gone, and I must be strong to bear this responsibility. I have 2 children, my husband is injured, and I have to fight this brutal world.
We were besieged 4 times, and we escaped each time by a miracle. The last time they bombed our house, we were still inside it. They poured me out, and I had to walk to the south with my 2 children. They took my injured husband away. That moment was the worst of my life. I collapsed, but I had to get up to protect my children. I hugged them, and I walked through a sea of tanks and soldiers. Not one of them had an ounce of mercy. When we'd crossed half the distance, they dropped white phosphorus on us, and we almost suffocated. I held my children, and I ran with them to protect them.
We reached the south, but we had no shelter, no clues, no food, either for my children nor for me. The situation was catastrophic. My husband needed several urgent surgeries as his injury was life-threatening. After suffering and trying, we managed to travel to Egypt, where he underwent the first surgery for his ear and passed the critical stage. At that moment, I thought I would get some rest, but I have not tasted rest since then.
Every time I try to sleep, before I do, all these events replay in my mind, and I break down in tears. At the moment, I feel like I've lost the world and everything in it. I've reached a point where nothing can affect me anymore. In simple terms, my feelings are wiped out.
But now I am in Egypt, trying to live for my children and my husband. Yet I am without a soul, without any passion for life, the life that the war has stolen from me.
Yasmin Giroux, 13th of November 2024.
The seasons have passed, yet we haven't lived their familiar details. We didn't eat oranges in winter, nor buy roasted corn on the cob by the harbour in summer.
Even the olives weren't harvested. They were pressed into the ground by the treads of the tanks.
The earth did not bloom on my mother's grave, because spring hid in fear and was buried beneath the rubble.
Everyone is fine, don't worry. We pulled them out alive. They're now in the shelter. Now in the shelter school. Now, calm down.
Except for Salman, Naja, her husband Manouj,
Their son Loué, their daughter Warda,
Asil, Anas and Bakr.
Abu Anas, Abu Jalal, Jalal,
Ahmad, and his infant son, Asmana.
Ali, Abu Hussan, Al-Hassan.
Zakaya, Manal, and her infant son Amir.
they have all ascended as martyrs.
Everyone is fine.
of course, a lie to reassure Salman's wife, Naja and Mahmoud's children, Allah's mother and father, and
if only they were fine.
But From beneath the rubble, they emerged in pieces, buried in temporary graves.
Yes, temporary graves.
Are you surprised?
Let me explain. We cannot go to cemeteries to bury them. People are buried in schoolyards, hospital grounds, street corners, alleyways.
We will exhume them one day when the oppression and darkness end.
We will unearth them and renew the anguish of separation, the sorrow in our hearts, and the death of hope for their return and reunion, if only the pain had ended with their departure and moved on.
And then, what comes after?
Hungry in the north, thirsty in the south, exiles without shelter, a reality unlike any other.
Dispersed here and there.
No safety, no peace.
Displacement everywhere.
And how long will this persist?
Is change impossible?
And then, what will come after?
Will we continue to lean every night on pillows weighed down with burdens, stained with dark worries and waking nightmares?
And then, what comes after?
Is change impossible? Or is permanence inevitable?
We turn over between bitter truths, trapped by thoughts that won't leave us, burdened by their weight of day and night.
Oh, leaders! Our souls have aged and the fragrance of our youth has withered.
Faces have grown pale and troubled.
To God we plead our misery and despair.
To God we complain of our weakness and weariness.
To God we cry out against tyranny and injustice.
To him we surrender our affairs and their outcomes.
And then, what comes after?
The heart no longer desires life. Its cravings have been extinguished.
We yearn only for the fog to lift, for the hidden light that will sting our eyes after its long absence, more than a year.
It will pain our souls with what we will see in its wake.
Each of us carries a story too vast for the pages of literature to contain, a tale of how we lived, what we saw, and how we survived.
And each of us has had their lives turned upside down.
But war, will it end and days bring back us together if we do not ascend?
This is the truth of our faith in God and the firmness of our certainty.
And then,
What comes after?
Yasmin Katbeh, 19th of November 2024. I am Yasmin Katbeh, the little girl who had many dreams but couldn't fulfill them because God had written a special story for me. I am Yasmin, little girl whose heart was strong and who feared nothing. But now my life has turned 180 degrees and I've become Yasmin the coward, whose heart jumps at the slightest thing. And the reason for that is because I became a mother. Motherhood changed my life. In the 2021 war, they bombed the Al-Sharouk Tower on Ramallah Street, and I was living right across from it. And all the shrapnel flew into my kitchen and shattered all the glass in the house. And my dear son, Sufyan, was terrified. He was just a year old. And after that terror we lived through, we moved to another place. And my in-laws hosted us for 9 days. But the bombardment didn't stop. They hit the strait where we were, Alkan Street. I remember the moment I looked into my husband's eyes and made him promise to take care of Sufyan. Can you imagine the hardest moment of my life, having to entrust my child to someone because I didn't know whether I would live or die? And after the ceasefire, my husband and I decided to go to Russia, my mother's country, to get citizenship and then return with hope to our homeland.
Once we arrived in Russia, we felt relief. At least we were safe. But then came the difficulties of being in exile, not adjusting, feeling like we didn't belong there. We comforted ourselves by believing we would one day definitely return home. But after the 7th of October, all our dreams collapsed.
When the October War started, I was pregnant with my second son, Yusuf, in my 9th month. And with all the news and events, I couldn't stop crying to the point that my husband took my phone away so I wouldn't see the body parts and destroyed Palestine. From the first month of the war, my family's home in the Palestine town was bombed, and I couldn't breathe. The oxygen just ran out. What saved me was my 3-year-old son, Shryane. He held me and he hugged me until I could breathe again. And my husband reassured me that my family was fine.
They're all fine. Don't worry, I called them. They're all safe.
But then the news would cut off, and then there were no calls. And the terror I felt is indescribable. And then came the massacre in Jabalia, and we couldn't sleep at night.
There is no safe place in Gaza. But thank God we are still alive.
And all the time I kept thinking about the women giving birth in Gaza without anaesthesia, without proper facilities. Everyone saw what happened to the children in Al-Nazar hospital. I developed insomnia permanently. I kept thinking about what might happen in Al-Shifa hospital when the Israeli army entered and committed massacres. And at that time, I was in labour myself. And I could have been in Al-Shifa hospital giving birth. And that thought never left my mind.
In Gaza, there's no one who hasn't had their home destroyed or bombed. A year passed, and our son turned 1, but the war still isn't over. Inside me, there's always a battle. One voice says, the country's lost, there's no going back. Another voice says, Gaza will return, even better than ever.
Many dear ones remain in Gaza. Thank God I haven't lost anyone in this brutal war. But at the same time, and I thank God that my children are safe, but I'm afraid my children will one day think Russia is their home and forget Palestine and Gaza. And I feel they'll grow up like the children of foreigners who don't even speak Arabic.
I hope Gaza returns. And may God compensate our people in Gaza and have mercy on all of the martyrs. Amen.
Amen.
Ali Abu Yassin, 8th of November, 2024. I believe that my oud was the only musical instrument in the whole of the beach refugee camp. I was just 13 years old, and whenever I wanted to take my oud outside the house, I would carefully wrap it in a blanket, one we received from UNRWA as part of the winter aid, which included the clothes and blankets. But it felt like I was hiding a corpse.
I bought the oud by working on the land in the occupied countryside when I was just 13, saving up for it. I remember it cost 200 Jordanian dinars back then, and of course, I first started work when I was 10.
When the war broke out on the 7th of October 2023, we fled from the beach camp to Deir al-Balah. We took with us just a change of clothes, thinking we'd stay for a couple of days, a week at most, and then return. That's why I left my precious oud on top of the wardrobe, and I placed a pile of clothes underneath it so that it wouldn't get damaged by the vibrations from the bombing. I made sure it was secure when we left the house.
Yes, that oud was the last thing I saw in the house before leaving. But I never imagined, nor did anyone who fled Gaza to the south, that the war would last this long. It's been 400 days, 13 months in exile. I can't stand being away from my oud.
For the first time in all this time, I hadn't played or sung 400 days. I've spent most of them crying for the loss of my family, friends, neighbours, children. The scenes of people on the streets.
Everything about war drives you to tears. No, it drives you to madness.
I've often seen people wandering aimlessly, losing their minds, going mad.
The truth is, I no longer know Who is more mad? Us or the world watching what's happening and staying silent? Not rising up as an entire country is being wiped out.
But look, I don't want to talk about the war and our condition. I want my oud and my voice back so I can sing. I often dream that I'm playing my oud. I wake up and I find my fingers moving up and down the strings of it. Give me back my oud and give me back my voice.
Yes. Another tragedy is that for the last 35 years, I haven't left the stage. Whether as actor, director, writer or trainer. I've never stopped working in the theatre. All those years I've worked continuously. How is it possible that in 400 days I haven't performed once? I haven't stood on a stage.
The theatre is my second home. I spent more time there than I have with my own family. Bring me back to the stage. I know that Israel has bombed and destroyed all the theatres, but just stop the war and we'll perform in the streets.
Yes, we don't need a stage, or sound, or lights, or decoration. Just me, the audience, and the street.
I mean, I know the occupation has destroyed the streets as well, but we won't be defeated. We'll find a rooftop, one that was swept by the wind and hasn't exploded. And we'll climb to the top and we'll perform while people watch from all around the ruins.
In this performance, my oud will accompany me as a substitute for the music and all the other necessary elements. It's a great idea, don't you think?
If the war ends and I'm still alive, I'll do that. That is, if I can find my oud where I left it on top of the wardrobe.
And if I find the wardrobe at all, because the top flat of my house has been destroyed. This is what I saw in a video my friend Amjad sent me of my house. My son's apartment, which he had been preparing to marry in and live in, was completely destroyed.
But back to the subject. I'm sure this show will attract the press. Theatre, destruction, and an audience made up of children, of women, of youth, and elders. A beautiful cocktail. What a sight!
And the audience can sit however they like, or they can stay standing. But if they want to sit, they've got a lot of options. There's a broken column, a destroyed child's bed, a warped cooking pot, a broken tree stump.
The important thing was to stop this war and take me back to my home. I've never been away from my home for more than 3 months. I can't stand it.
Take me back to my library, to my world,
Yes.
to my theatre,
Yes.
to my oud,
Yes.
to my audience.
I miss them, and I miss myself.
It's been 400 days of being lost.
Take me back to where I belong.
I've forgotten who I am.
Will this war ever end?
Will this war ever end?
Will this war ever
Ever
end?
end?
Will this
This
war
war
ever
ever end?
This war ever end?
والطيارة